Britain's government is pushing back against Israeli intelligence assessments about Iran's military reach. Environment Minister Steve Reed stated today, "There is no specific assessment indicating Iran has the capability to strike London," directly contradicting recent Israeli claims that Tehran now possesses such long-range capabilities. The disagreement highlights growing tensions within the Western alliance over how to assess Iran's expanding missile program. Reed's comments came during a parliamentary session where he was pressed on Britain's preparedness for potential Iranian retaliation following recent military actions in the region. Israel has been warning allies that Iran's ballistic missile technology has advanced significantly, with new systems potentially capable of reaching European capitals. However, British intelligence appears to have reached different conclusions about the immediate threat level. The public disagreement between close allies underscores the complexity of intelligence sharing and threat assessment in an increasingly volatile Middle East. This diplomatic friction could complicate coordinated responses to Iran's regional activities and nuclear program going forward. A passionate Zambian chemist is revolutionizing global drug discovery from an innovative laboratory in South Africa, earning international acclaim for extraordinary research breakthroughs. The scientist, whose love for chemistry has driven decades of dedication, now leads a cutting-edge facility that's being hailed as a game-changer in pharmaceutical development. The lab is making significant strides in developing new treatments for diseases that disproportionately affect African populations, including tuberculosis and measles. What makes this research particularly groundbreaking is its focus on conditions often neglected by major pharmaceutical companies due to limited profit potential. The facility represents a bold new model for drug development, combining African scientific expertise with advanced research capabilities to address global health challenges. International health organizations are closely watching the lab's progress, recognizing that successful treatments developed here could transform healthcare not just across Africa, but worldwide. The work demonstrates Africa's growing capacity to lead in scientific innovation rather than simply receive medical interventions developed elsewhere. This research facility could inspire similar initiatives across the developing world. Deadly cross-border violence has claimed another life as Hezbollah militants killed one person in northern Israel, while Israeli forces continue their expanded assault on southern Lebanon. The latest fatality comes as Hezbollah escalates its attacks in direct response to what it calls the U.S.-Israel war on Iran, with more Israeli troops now entering Lebanese territory. The militant group has been launching increasingly sophisticated strikes against Israeli positions, marking a significant expansion of the conflict beyond its original scope. Israeli military operations in southern Lebanon have intensified dramatically, with ground forces now complementing ongoing aerial bombardments across the region. The violence represents a dangerous escalation in a conflict that began with focused military objectives, but has now drawn in multiple regional powers and proxy forces. Hezbollah's explicit linkage of its attacks to broader regional tensions with Iran signals the conflict's transformation into a wider Middle Eastern confrontation. International observers warn that the expanding geographic scope and increasing involvement of Iranian-backed groups could trigger a full-scale regional war with devastating consequences for civilian populations across multiple countries. British households face inevitable energy bill increases if current oil price surges continue, according to the chief executive of Centrica, Britain's largest energy supplier. The British gas parent company boss warned that rising energy costs would be inescapable for consumers should oil markets remain at elevated levels, though he cautioned it's too early to speculate on specific price impacts. His comments reflect growing industry concern about sustained commodity price pressures that have emerged from global supply disruptions and geopolitical tensions. Oil prices have surged dramatically in recent weeks due to Middle Eastern conflicts and supply chain uncertainties, directly impacting electricity generation costs and heating fuel prices across Britain. The warning comes as British households are already struggling with cost-of-living pressures following previous energy price spikes. Energy companies face the delicate balance of absorbing short-term commodity cost increases while maintaining long-term financial stability in volatile markets. Consumer advocacy groups are already calling for government intervention to protect vulnerable households from potential price shocks. The situation highlights Britain's ongoing energy security challenges and the direct link between global instability and domestic household budgets for millions of families. President Trump finds himself at a critical policy crossroads as his public statements about the Iran conflict being nearly over sharply contradict the escalating reality on the ground across the Middle East. The president has repeatedly claimed that the war is almost finished, but military analysts and field reports paint a drastically different picture of expanding violence and deepening regional involvement. Trump's optimistic rhetoric appears increasingly disconnected from the complex military situation, where multiple fronts have opened and Iranian proxy forces are launching coordinated attacks across the region. The administration now faces tough strategic options, including potential direct military intervention or accepting a significantly weakened position in Middle Eastern geopolitics. Senior Pentagon officials have reportedly presented the president with several escalatory scenarios, none of which align with his public timeline for conflict resolution. The disconnect between presidential messaging and battlefield realities is creating confusion among allies and potentially undermining American credibility in future diplomatic initiatives. Trump's next decisions on Iran policy could define his presidency's foreign policy legacy and reshape America's role in the Middle East for decades to come.